Okay, what's up, you guys? So, it's Kyra. I am going to do a little bit of an impromptu natal reading today. I felt called to do it, and I wanted to explore how Mars interacts in a natal chart, right? It's a little bit more random, but it's focused on one thing, and that's Mars energy and how Mars can show up in a natal chart and what it's trying to tell us energetically. So, I'm going to put some natal charts on the screen, not some, one. I just used Placidus and whole sign, so we'll look at both and just talk about, what I see, how I read that. And then I've got a couple questions that I prompted that some people traditionally can ask when it comes to like a natal chart reading. So let's read a chart today. Let's explore that energy. Mars shows how a person takes action in their life and what drives them and how they go after what it is that they want. It's not just desire, it's execution, right? That's Mars energy. It's the soldier, the warrior energy. So I'm only looking at a natal chart, not the transits. I just saw 111 on the time. I started looking at the chart earlier, and this video would be so long if I was looking at the natal chart, the transits, and all the other elements. So we're just going to focus on what Mars looks like and what it's telling us in a natal chart. This is my personal interpretation and perception of it. So yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to put a chart on the screen, and I had this one randomly generated with a particular date, and this is what came up for this person. So this person's chart has Mars, and you can see it located in the 3rd house. We're going to look at whole sign chart first. So this person has Mars in Leo. It is at 21 degrees. If you follow degree theory, which I do, just in practice, not necessarily in like by the books of whatever the theory is, even though I like it. That's a Sagittarian degree, 21. And it's also a 3. It's a creation, right? So we're already on theme of what this person's Mars energy is. It's very creative and very passionate. So what it means to have Mars in Leo. The action style of Mars in Leo is going to be very expressive, very confident, very creative, and very visible. I like to call Leo energy the performer. It doesn't mean that you're on a stage actually performing for like what you do or for fun, but this energy is just so expressive, and it's so confident and charismatic, and it can be very creative, and it's just visible. It's the sun. Remember, the sun is at home in Leo. So this is where the sun feels the best in shining. The motivation of Leo energy usually is all about recognition, pride in what they do. Think about the lion, and the lion has a pride that follows because it trusts that lion's action and the care, the heart that it has, right? Leo energy always is an energy that wants to be seen. It's not the energy that wants to hide. Now, I'm talking about Leo in general. So if you have Leo placement in your chart and say you don't like to be seen, that could be because there's something aspecting your Leo energy or something that is opposing it in a way that makes you a little different, right? Your Leo might fall a little bit more private focused. So the desire that Leo energy usually carries is to create, to lead, and to stand out. So with all of that information in mind, when we think about Mars energy, we're thinking about the energy that is all about its pursuit, right? How it takes action on something, its desire, how you assert yourself, and how you handle conflict. So this Mars energy is going to handle all of its conflict and take action and be very passionate in its life in a very Leo expressive kind of way. So I'm going to look at this chart, and we're going to find out what we want to say. So this is someone who acts from their heart. That's pretty much what that Leo Mars is saying. Their heart is very much how they are going to take action on what they desire. It's going to be very heart-led, which is pretty cool. That's a very cool and expressive energy to have. A shadow side of that can be a little ego-driven on their actions. So the ego is not a bad thing. It's here to protect our own self-identity, right? It's the thing being like, oh yeah, you did good. I'm that deal. It's your main character energy cheerleader. That's what the ego is. Now, it can overexpress and vibrate in a frequency that is detrimental to you and opposing to others, because it could just think that I'm just the best and everyone else is awful if it's a low frequency vibration. But that is because the ideas and the themes of competition and comparison to others has been so prominent in this world that narrative has been like weaved into society so deeply that people think that there's only one winner, when yes, you might be the one winner in your world, but that doesn't mean that there can't be others that are just as great in their own worlds. We all live in a collective energy, but you're your own expression of it. So you need to know that you're your own ruler and you're the best, but also know that you're not the only one here. And there can be others that also think that they're the best, and that doesn't take away from you being the best, right? It's not about comparison. It's just about inspiration. So that could be a pitfall, right, of this energy. Another one could be needing validation to move, right? If this energy with Mars in Leo could require someone else outside of them telling them that they're doing a great job, or getting the feeling that they're doing a great job because of something that someone else shows them based on their results or what they're presenting in the world. That could be a shadow side of this energy, if that energy can fall into that. And sometimes it can overperform or hesitate if it's not seen, right? So this is the person that, if they're not getting enough attention, is going to do something very drastic and very attention seeking in order to put that spotlight back on them, right? There's a passion. There is a go-getter, aggressive energy, not aggressive, assertive energy when it comes to someone who has Mars in Leo. When I talk about 21 degrees too, how I mentioned this person has Mars in the 21 degree point, this is referring to degree theory, right? I like this energy because I always believe that everything adds a layer to it. And that Mars is at 21 degrees for a reason. It's bringing an energy into it. 21 is a Sagittarian degree, right? So this adds the element of expansion, belief, and vision. So that is saying that there's a layer of wanting their actions to mean something or go somewhere bigger, right? This energy, the desire to bring their passions and expressions into the world, it's because they want something bigger. They want to expand, and they're going to have the desire to expand in that place. This is feeling very visionary, right? Visionary energy. Someone has a desire to express their passions for it. And then we're going to look at where this Mars is placed. So we know that this Mars is in Leo and it's at 21 degrees. And now we see that it's placed in the third house. So the third house in whole signs, we're looking at it too. It usually shows up as your communication space, your thought space, your movement space. Mars in Leo in the third house is about communicating in a very expressive and passionate way about your actions. So you're going to use some form of communication, not necessarily your voice. It could be how people see your actions, how you express those actions, your thoughts. You're going to have a lot of passion behind them. You're going to speak very passionately. You're going to have a lot of fire behind the way that you communicate with others. You could think very rapidly, very expressive and entertaining, like desire focused, and your daily interactions that you have with people, to be honest, I'm going to be real, they're probably pretty entertaining because you have that Leo energy, and everyone enjoys the sun, especially when it's shining on them. So when you're communicating with people in your daily action, people might enjoy that, because when you're taking the action to communicate in that way, right, they might enjoy the way that you move, enjoy how you are passionate about things and how you express your passions. You might find people are attracted to that. So this person is going to speak with intensity. They're going to take action through their words, and they're going to be really quick thinking and, to be honest, a little reactive, because again, Mars is very quick. It's a very quick energy. Think about the fact that Aries is ruled by Mars, right? It's a very like reactive energy, and for it to be in another fire energy in Leo, it's going to be very reactive, but this can come off in a very, self-focused, entertaining way potentially for this person. Their words are their actions, right? This person's energy is definitely like, I talk it and that's what I do. So the shadow side of that there could be a lot of arguments that happen in this person's life. With the third house being your day-to-day interactions and communication, it's going to bring a lot of communication and interaction to you in a very Leo way. So yeah, there could be a lot of arguments. There could be a lot of impulsive communication that's going on, and there could be potentially a lot of overthinking and immediate reactions that's happening. The thing that I also noticed when I was looking at it, this Mars has let's see, something was going on with the moon in this Mars. It has a square with the moon. So that made me laugh, because I was like, okay, yeah, so this Mars is getting conflict and tension from its internal feelings. And that moon being in Scorpio, right? That's another energy that is fallen energy, right? The moon falls in Scorpio. Their feelings and their internal world are going to have conflict with their actions and their desires and how they go about taking action in that way. So I can see that maybe causing this person to overthink and immediately react to things, right? Be a little bit more, not necessarily argumentative, but this can definitely show where the overthinking can happen in this person's chart because of the square with that moon. But remember, a square is not a death sentence. It's not a, oh my gosh, there's no coming back. A square is actually, in my opinion, a gift, because it is contrast and discomfort that is looking for you to grow and learn from it, right? When you square up with something, you're either going to get stronger or you're going to get smarter by the conflict. So it's actually a gift to have the action squaring the feelings, because once you start to learn how to use your feelings and understand your feelings, this moon is sitting in the 6th house of every day, your work, your health, right? You might find that you're a little bit more beneficial. I would say this person would benefit greatly from, having some type of routine when it comes to their feelings. If their feelings start to get away from them in a way that they don't feel like they can manage or, do anything with, you could find working out, taking care of the body, just adding movement into the body in order to root the feelings into the body can really help this energy find some peace when it comes to their feelings and their actions, and get a clearer vision of what to do when that energy starts to like pop off. For sure. So let's also talk about the Mars placement in the Placidus chart. So when we look at the Placidus chart, I'm going to pull that one up right now. You're going to see that this Mars now moves into the 4th house. So Placidus for me is always about like the internal world, in my opinion. Like, it's a little bit deeper into the knowledge. That's why I like to use both. You can look at one and just say, oh, I just find the energy of my Placidus chart is aligned to me, or I find the energy of my whole sign chart aligned to me. But because I'm such an introspective being by nature, I find that I love the whole picture, and then I love to go into the details in Placidus. So let's get into the details. This person's Placidus moves into the 4th house. So what this means is this action, Mars, is going to show up in their home life, in their family life, and in their emotional foundation. So that could mean arguments. It could be very expressive conversations. This person is going to say it and do it when it comes to their home life and their families. Their emotional foundation shows up here. So yeah, this person is going to take action emotionally. And with that square happening too, with that moon in Scorpio, there can be conflict there if that person doesn't give themselves the pause or find a system in order to help that square that's happening, find release, right? To learn something from the conflict that's happening, right? Be very reflective on those emotions through some type of meditative things. It doesn't mean you have to sit here and just go, if that's not for you, okay? This Mars likes movement and action. So I don't know if that would be an energy for this Mars. That's why I said bring it into the body, dancing, working out, just moving, some repetitive moving to just help find a balance between that emotional contrast that is conflicting with the desires of the expression of that Mars. This may have a strong reaction to private spaces, right? Your home life could have given you a lot of conflict. It could still be giving you conflict either from when you were a kid and to now, until you learn how to balance the energy of your feelings with your actions. That square will help you, but it's going to help you by bringing conflicts in your home life into your world in order to help you learn how to manage, regulate your emotions, and find release for your energy. So the drive that comes from what they feel at home or what they didn't have is something that can fuel this Mars energy in order to go after things, right? If there was a lack in what you were emotionally receiving at home, or things weren't happening for you at home, that can build a passion and a desire that your Mars is now going to utilize in order to obtain in your later life, or when you decide you no longer have to participate in that home life, right? The shadow side of that energy with the Mars being in the 4th house can be internal frustration, right? Feeling misunderstood at home, feeling like it doesn't work out for me, or when I try to do things, it's not received in the way that I want it to. Tension between family members can show up with this Mars sitting in the 4th house, especially with how you emotionally connect. Again, remember, this Mars is squaring a Scorpio moon energy in the 6th house. So your day-to-day routine in your home world can be affected, right? Your work life, your health can be affected by the stress and the pressure that has happened inside of your world and at home can take an effect on the body. So taking really good care of yourself can also help to balance out any type of external stress that's going on, right? We want to really heal this moon energy and help that moon energy strengthen up. A lot of times too, if we know that the moon is in Scorpio and it's fallen, then we look on the opposite side of Scorpio, and then we go into Taurus to help that Scorpio moon. So we start really focusing on self-care. We start focusing on the senses, and bringing those elements. Like the better you take care of yourself, the healthier that moon will become. And the healthier that moon becomes, the less that square is going to be so opposing, and it's going to be more healing and getting a lesson from it in order to allow those actions and your feelings to settle in. So it's like a nice little cycle. When you're weak in one element, you want to pull from the opposite element. So if you're weak in Scorpio, you want to pull Taurus energy in, if that makes sense. Okay. So, and then another shadow side, I think I said emotional defensiveness. So this person can be extremely defensive about their emotions. And I've learned with Scorpio moon energy does not always even know their full emotions, right? Scorpio, again, has to transform and go deep. So, but it can be fixed and not necessarily always wanting to do that. It wants to go deep into other people, but not necessarily into its own emotional energy until it reaches the point of transformation, right? And not being so defensive. If we think of the story of Scorpio, it's the scorpion that is very defensive. It's very reactory. And then that scorpion transcends and evolves into the eagle, which has a more bird's eye view, right? It can see more of the picture. So it is more strategic about how it goes into something. And then once it transforms for its final cycle, it becomes the phoenix, right? It fully allows itself to die and end to be reborn as something new, right? So as you're following your Scorpio cycle, a Scorpio moon is going through that experience. There's no timing on how long that's supposed to take or when it's supposed to happen in your life. It will be different for everyone, but that is the journey of Scorpio. So for this person to have a moon in Scorpio and it's showing up in their sixth house and it's experiencing a contrast with this Mars energy, it is teaching this person that through their actions, that and how they feel about their actions, it's going to have to go through the journey of transformation. So there can be emotional defensiveness a lot, especially if it's in the beginning of this journey where it's very defensive. So the best advice I can give to someone who has Mars in Leo and a Scorpio moon is give yourself a moment before you respond to anything, and it can save you. Let yourself know, like, give yourself a check-in with yourself to see how you really feel before you respond. Even if it's only a minute at first or a second, and you just keep building that up, that will really serve you in the long run in helping with that transformation process. So let's say we combine all of this, right? Mars in Leo, expressive, visible action. Third house, Mars in whole sign. This expression is coming through how you communicate your ideas. Fourth house, Placidus. This is rooted deeply in your emotional foundation. This is someone whose voice is fueled by their emotions and needs to be seen. I don't want to shift it too far from Mars, but I'm also like looking at this chart and I'm seeing so much going on in this fifth house, and what's going on in this fifth house is very telling on this chart because this fifth house is holding Libra energy, which is relational energy, how we relate outside of the self with others and things that are around us, in this person's creative, joy-filled, entertaining space in their fifth house. Their sun is in this fifth house in Libra, another placement that is fallen, right? The sun is exalted in Aries and it falls in Libra. So for the sun to be in a sign where it doesn't necessarily see its confidence and its shine as brightly as others because it's looking at how others view it for its validation is telling on its creative work. Sitting next to Chiron, and this sun is in conjunction with Chiron in Libra. So there was a wounding that happened for this person at 20 degrees. So when I interpret that, I'm looking, this wounding could have happened in young adult life, right? Early on in the early stages of adulthood, where their creations, their artwork, their joy was wounded. There was a pain, a hurt that happened there in how they show up and how they shine by others potentially outside of them, you know, other people's view of them. And it could also deal with energy of how they communicate, right? The Mercury is also sitting here in Libra in the fifth house. It's not in conjunction with the sun and Chiron, so it's not as closely tied, but it's in the same house. So something about the way that they express, and the fact that Mars is sitting in the third house in whole sign, it's trying to bring an energy of expressing those emotions in a certain type of way and to be able to heal it, because this person has a story, it has a creation to bring into the world. It is aligned with their purpose because the North Node is sitting in the fifth house, and the North Node is all about what you're being called to in this life in order to bring into the world, right? The energy. So there's a creation, there is an expression, there is an inner joy and an inner light that is looking to be brought to the world, related to others, expressed, bring balance and harmony into the world. Because again, this is all in Libra. This is all happening next to, you know, a couple houses away from this Mars in Leo. So this person is definitely experiencing the energy of needing to find their voice in order to share their creations and heal and bring harmony to the world through their creations. And in order to help that process, they need to find a way to understand their emotions, transform their emotions, balance their emotions, give themselves the time and the place with that Mars. That Mars will help once they find the routine to put the Mars energy in and not be so responsive or reactory towards it. And then that will help the energy settle in order to fall into that fifth house place, right? So that's just like looking at the bottom half. I'm not even looking at the top half or the sides of this chart. I'm trying not to, because now it's like sparking up other questions. So I'm like, okay, well, where's Saturn, you know, going on? Where's Jupiter? Like there's other things and elements that are going on with it. But let's go into a few, and I didn't even like fully get into like aspects that are happening with this Mars, but this video will get so long. It's already 25 minutes, so I'm going to move on. I made a script and I made an outline to follow. If you hear talking in the background, it's just my peoples. They're just, communicating and expressing. It's fine. It's Mars energy today, so things can be a little fiery. That's why I wanted to talk about it. Mars and Leo is such a good representation for it. So into our questions. So traditionally, when people come for an astrology reading or they're seeking answers from the stars, it's because they might have a particular question about something in their life. So I've prompted a couple questions that we're going to look at to see about an answer in the chart. So the first question is about wealth. Everyone always likes to know about, we just lost our kitty friend. That's okay. He was here for a while. I do like having cat energy around me. So yeah, a lot of people, when they're looking to do a astrology chart or get a natal reading, want to know about their money. Okay, they want to know about their money, honey. What's going on with that? So the question that a lot of times is asked is, why do I start things but struggle to stay consistent? So because that a lot of times can affect money. So if we tie this into the Mars that we're looking at, right, that Leo Mars, it needs inspiration. It's very expressive and very creative, but it needs inspiration. That third house energy, which is a movement house, right? Remember, third house traditionally is Gemini's home, an air house. So with Mars being in that house, it's going to be easily distracted. Your actions and your desires are going to be constantly in the movement. You're going to have things that are coming into your life that are pulling your attention when it comes to what you desire. And then that fourth house, when we're looking at the Placidus placement of Mars, is about the emotional motivation that fluctuates, right? Because it's your home stability. And with this person's personal chart, they have a debilitated Scorpio moon. Sometimes I use those words weird, but exalted, debilitated, like fallen, whatever. It's just the moon is not exalted like it is when it's in Taurus. And because Taurus is the opposite of Scorpio, that means that it falls when it is in debilitated when it is in Scorpio. So this debilitated moon, so this this journey that this emotional processing is underway in this lifetime of learning how to be in the emotions and go deep with the emotions and allow the transformation to happen is taking place, and it's squaring this Mars's action. So that fluctuation of emotions and not necessarily being able to hold it steady until they learn how to do that, and being constantly distracted and needing inspiration and things can be a question of why this person may struggle to be consistent in something in order to obtain a resource. Money is nothing but a accumulation of energy, right? You have to create the container and the space to hold wealth in order for it to come. So that means doing something consistently in order to make money feel like it wants to even come to you. Even if you get a bunch of money, but you never built the container from it, it won't stay because it doesn't like where you put it, because it doesn't have a place to rest. Money wants to find a bowl, right? If you think of like money like water, you can't just hold water in your open fingers like this. It's going to run right through. You'll hold it for a second. You'll get a wet hand, but you're not whatever. But if you make a bowl and then you catch all that water in it, you can hold that water. So that's what money is. So when you're looking at wealth and realizing like, dang, I always struggle to stay consistent, this Mars energy can help show you a potential reason why. Because the emotional state isn't regulated, and because it's in the sixth house with that moon, it needs to find routines and integration into the body in order to find self-regulation to go through the scorpionic journey of transformation. And it's going to be opposed by your desires constantly being distracted, constantly needing inspiration to spark that. And you're having to find some type of routine and balance in order to create an emotional safe place for your feelings. And then you'll be able to develop the consistency to stay through, right? You have to create consistency in your emotions in order to stop fighting your desires, right? Even if you you're easily distracted by things. When you bring discipline or consistency into something, that means that you're going to stick with it, even when you find other things that you want to do, right? So I don't care if you have 50 ideas a day, whatever ideas you decide to implement, make sure that you have the stay with power to do it, right? So that's usually why they always say less is more, right? So pick one thing that you're always going to do no matter what other things come up. And you will find that the accumulation process will build you into a consistent pattern. And emotions like, well, the moon, it likes safety and stability. So when you create safety and stability for the moon energy, your emotions start to balance out a little bit more. So then once your emotions balance out, your actions stop being so opposing to your emotional energy, because you're bringing consistency into the body. You know, Mars is very about the body, but because this Mars is in the third house, whole sign, it's a very movement orientated thing. That's why I recommend dancing, working out for this Mars energy. Tai Chi, something that can bring a balance between the emotion and action state, but still in movement, right? I would never recommend for this Mars energy to sit there and meditate right away as the first thing it's doing. Like, this Mars energy wants to move, and it's going to be asking for movement. So this person's energy is going to depend on the consistency of how they feel, not just what they plan. So finding something that you can consistently show up for, and checking in with yourself regularly to ask, do I still align to this? Do I still want this for myself? So another topic that comes up a lot of times is relationships. People always want to know about relationships. So one question that can get asked is, why do I react quickly or take things personally? It's a valid question. So if we're looking at this person's Mars placement, it's all about, Mars is all about reactions and how you interact with things in life, in your actions. So the first thing we look at is the fact that Mars is in Leo. And what is a pitfall when we talked about with Mars in Leo? It's very ego-based if it is in the shadow side. So that means pride. Pride can be a good thing if you're proud of yourself and you have pride in yourself, but it can also be a negative opposing thing if you have too much pride to where your pride is detrimental to other people. Okay, so that Leo energy being in the third house is also very quick responsive, right? So that means that you might not even be giving yourself the time to register what someone said, and you're just responding off instinct. And remember, again, the moon is so important in your chart. This moon is in Scorpio. So it might not have given itself enough time to settle in to its own feelings. It feels them, but it's deep in there that it feels it. So you have to give yourself the time in order to understand the feelings and allow them to transform, right? Emotions move very slow in Scorpio. It's a very fixed sign. So that can also be a reason why this person might react quickly or take things personally, because that Mars is in their third house and it is squaring that Scorpio moon. And then the fourth house, when we look at the Mars placement in the Placidus chart, is emotionally sensitive. Okay, that Mars is sitting in the place of home. So this person can be emotionally sensitive because Mars is in a place where it is its inner world. So it's going to be very defensive. Again, remember, squaring this Scorpio moon. The moon sign is very important in your chart when you're looking to understand thyself. It can reflect and let you understand a lot of your choices and actions. And Mars is all about how you go after your passions and your actions. It's very connected to the sun energy, right? Energetically. So it can really show with how you interact with other people. So that can be why your relationships, you might find that you react very quickly and you take things personally. And again, it's the same fix for building wealth that it is for relationships. Giving yourself the space and the time in order to understand your emotions, like to allow that scorpionic process that needs to happen with the moon in Scorpio, from Scorpion to Eagle to Phoenix, to happen in order to actually know how you feel before you respond to someone. Regulating those emotions through a routine or system. I don't care if it's like a mantra that you say, right? Do you remember Family Matters, the show, or have you ever seen like random clips about it? I think the Carl Winslow, he had this thing when Steve was getting on his nerves, on his last nerve. He'd be like, 1, 2, 3, nothing's bothering me. Like he had this mantra where he would like be counting and he was saying something just to try to give himself the space to not allow his explosive reactiveness to pop through. So whatever you got to do to fill it in, you fill it in. But this emotional space is going to serve you well. And because that moon is sitting in the 6th house, you need to incorporate situations where they're in like a day-to-day routine healing standpoint, because that will help serve your relationships greatly, right? This energy does not respond. They feel it first and then they act, right? So you need to understand your feelings in order to act in the way that actually serves you, and not just in a defensive standpoint because of emotional woundings and a feeling of being very sensitive. This energy is going to be an energy that presents with very thin skin until it learns how to thicken up their skin. And that does not mean becoming so detached to emotions that you just wash yourself of them, but it's understanding that you do not have to take things people say personally, and you do not have to defend yourself from anyone, because you are your own sovereign being. Now, if someone tries you and you feel emotionally called to cuss them out or verbally say whatever, that's up to you. Do your thing. Like, I'm not saying like let someone walk all over you like a doormat. No, I mean, if you feel called to say something and let someone know, let them know. But just know, or just give yourself the time to know that that's what you really want to do and you're aligned to, and you're not doing it because you feel like, you need to defend yourself. To be honest, I feel my best when I'm like being in power in that way, and I feel like I need to cuss someone out. When I like give myself a pause, I think about it, and then I do it. And the more you practice this, the faster you will get at this. So I don't want anyone to say, oh, well, I'm going to lose the moment. No, the moment will always exist. You'll never miss it, okay? If you need to cuss someone out and you wait for the right moment, it will never miss, okay? You do not need to just get it out just to get it out because you feel like you're not going to get another opportunity. You will get the opportunity. So every time I've waited and I've done it, it actually feels euphoric. It feels good. And that's how I know it was the aligned choice for me. I'm like, heck yeah. I needed to say that. That felt good. Even if I had to walk away for a minute to take my piece or whatever, and then I came back and like let you have it. But you don't have to be impulsive in the moment in order to win. You don't. That's not how all battles are won. Sometimes you might have it right off the jump and it just flows like that and it feels aligned and it was the right choice. But sometimes you need to give yourself the space. And I promise you, you're going to serve it well. So don't feel like you're missing out. Okay. And then the last example of a question I have is usually about purpose. People are curious about their purpose when it comes to life. So one question you hear is, why do I want to express myself, but I feel blocked sometimes? So if we look again at this Mars, it's in Leo. It has a desire to shine. Leo energy is expressive. It wants to shine. It wants that admiration, And then it's sitting in the 4th house in Placidus. It's emotionally vulnerable, this Mars. It's in a watery, emotional space, okay? Mars is not the most comfortable in that, because think about Mars just in general is, again, it's not comfortable in Cancer energy. That's not where it likes to be usually. So it's sitting in the 4th house. It's having a similar experience. It's a lot of the external experiences are very Cancer, very emotionally weighty. So it's feeling vulnerable in here, which can speak to why sometimes it's so emotionally sensitive and defensive in this place, right? So that can lead to feeling blocked in how to express the self, right? And then with it being in the 3rd house and whole sign, there's a fear of being misunderstood with that Mars energy. That vulnerability of communication in space, where you look at where Mars is with it squaring, again, the moon, and its emotions, its thoughts, its ideas, in the way of what your mind holds, right? Your worries and your fears. It's squaring Mars in the 3rd house. So how you communicate in that way. it can bring, you know, the feelings that their power is an expression, but their growth is in an emotional safety, right? You really need to feel emotionally safe in order to feel aligned to your expression for yourself. So again, giving yourself the space in order to know what you actually are aligned to is the best remedy for this. Obviously, there are other things. We haven't looked at a lot of other things in the chart. I mean, you know, I keep looking at that stellium that's happening in the 5th house in Libra, and that's speaking to a lot of these questions to help answer them too. But I don't want this video to go crazy long. Yeah. We can though. This natal readings are one of my favorite things to do because it just opens up so many different elements and layers in this world that we can explore, and now retrospectively like look at your behaviors and experiences, see if they align to this, and ask yourself these questions. And then once you ask yourself the questions, you open yourself up to the answers, and that is where growth happens. So you can actually find yourself evolving by just looking at your natal chart. If anyone wants me to read their natal chart, let me know in the descriptions. I am going to put a link to my website up here one day. I don't feel like doing it today, so I'm just going to let you know right now, you're not going to find a link to it. If you're watching this video today, it's not going to be linked in there. If you're watching it in the future and it's linked to it, shout out to me, I did it. But if until then, just put your like a little bit of your info in the comments. Let me know you want a reading, and I'll contact you and we can get that going. Yeah, we can get that going. I'll figure it out. I'm going to put the website up soon. I know I am, because I keep saying it this week and I can feel it, and I just need to give myself the space to do it. But yeah, this has been really fun, right? Mars can show how we move, but the house shows where, the sign shows how. So when you understand your Mars, you understand how to actually move your life forward. And this is your engine. Mars is your engine. So I love looking at Mars. I love looking and seeing what Mars is doing in the chart. There are so many more elements that can go into it because of, you know, where the planets are transiting currently, can affect and influence what's going on with your natal Mars. Where you live energetically can also influence what's going on with your Mars energy. There's so many elements to astrology that bring such a beautiful insight into your life and figuring out what's going on. So this was a pleasure. Again, if you need a natal reading, let me know in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're into the fact that I just like to explore life and learn with you, as well as share the things that I know. And through me sharing, that's also how I learn, because as I'm speaking and as I'm engaging, things from my mind palace are like coming up, and I'm downloading and channeling and expressing certain things, and it's just a wonderful process to influence my learning and my growth. So I hope it helped you too. I love you guys. Enjoy your Mars energy. Look at where your Mars is in your chart. Look at what it's aspecting. Look at the house, the sign, and the degree, and see what else is going on, right? There's so much more to the story, but I just wanted to do a little bit of a taste. So it was really fun. I'm going to do more of these kind of videos because this was just like right up my alley. But yeah, if you want one done by me, just let me know. And until then, I will see you tomorrow. See what we want to learn tomorrow, what we want to talk about. I love you guys. Bye.